This year, the legendary Warcraft celebrates its 20th anniversary. During this time, the cult game has captivated millions of players around the world, and the franchise has grown to gigantic proportions. But it hasn't made it to the cinema yet. Against the backdrop of the anniversary, the company has prepared a bunch of events for players and, of course, rumors about a new film adaptation have started to circulate again. In this case, we are talking about the development of a TV series. Today, we will discuss the chances that Warcraft will get a sequel in the cinema. What does Netflix have to do with it? And most importantly, what story are they planning to adapt? Make yourself comfortable, because it will be interesting, as always. This summer, Netflix bought the rights to show Warcraft on its platform. And what's interesting is that the film, which was released in 2016, immediately flew into the top of the most viewed projects and is still trending. An excellent achievement, considering that 8 years have passed since the premiere. And, as many remember, the film was considered a failure by the studio. However, not everyone agrees with this, and disputes are ongoing among fans even now. The problem is that Warcraft failed at the domestic box office in the US, although it collected an impressive $440 million worldwide. First of all, thanks to China, where it was greeted very warmly. But in the end, taking into account advertising costs, the film brought losses of $15 million, which is why we never saw a sequel. Now that the film has appeared on Netflix and, against the backdrop of the anniversary, began to collect huge views, the boss's hearts have trembled, because it turned out that viewers are interested. To be honest, the 2016 film is being criticized unfairly. Of course, it is not perfect and is overloaded in places, but it did an excellent job of playing an introductory film for a large franchise. And it was quite careful about the expectations of fans. I don't even want to talk about the opinions of critics, because they have never had any luck with films based on games. Although even they noted the excellent visual effects and the overall picture. As we know, Warcraft was originally conceived as a trilogy. For a long time, the first film had the subtitle beginning and was supposed to pave the way for the franchise to enter the cinema. However, now the film can be called one of the last failures before the beginning of the golden age of video game adaptations. Detective Pikachu, Sonic, Uncharted, the Super Mario Bros. Brought tangible profits to the studios. And then the adaptations of The Last of Us and Fallout proved that big projects feel great in the TV series format. Although there are also opposite examples, when in pursuit of profit, studios shoot without understanding the source material. Borderlands is a striking example. And the trailer for Minecraft was bombarded with dislikes for its approach. And the series Halo was cancelled after the second season, because the authors decided that the universe and the inner world of the Spartans were more important than everything else. In general, there are also enough bad examples, but Warcraft is definitely not one of them. The franchise has enormous potential, and director Duncan Jones delivered an epic fantasy story following the conflict between the orc and human tribes. The mysterious evil in the background, threatening the existence of all life, was supposed to be developed in at least 2 more films. At the same time, Warcraft showed both humans and orcs equally, which allowed it to stand out from other fantasy projects. And to its credit, the level of motivation of the orcs was well written, unlike the second season of The Lord of the Rings. The last big news update was back in 2020, when it was reported that there were plans for a film adaptation of the second game in the Warcraft series. At the same time, Peter Jackson was even considered for the post of director, but first the coronavirus, and then problems with the transfer of rights and Hollywood strikes prevented these plans from coming true. Well, Jackson eventually found himself a job in the upcoming 2 films based on The Lord of the Rings. In a recent interview, Warcraft director Duncan Jones described the confusing behind-the-scenes situation surrounding the film, revealing that it wasn't exactly high on Blizzard's list of priorities. The company's original goal was to attract new players, so expectations weren't exactly high. But Jones himself was clearly fascinated by the lore, and revealed the direction he wanted to take the sequel. The second installment would dive into the franchise's rich world after the first film spent a lot of time running around trying to introduce the various franchises. And as we noted, Warcraft's box office success in China helped push it closer to box office success. So Jones hinted that if the sequel does happen, it might bypass U.S. theaters altogether. That would help cut down on the company's marketing budget and boost its presence in other countries. After working with Netflix, Jones could actually help bring Warcraft to the small screen. The director's latest project was sponsored and released via streaming. The release of his own Warcraft shows that there is interest in the project, which means that the release of a series within this universe is more than possible. Insiders are now talking about Netflix discussing this idea with Blizzard management. Naturally, you need to be careful about believing this, but in general, a series based on Warcraft does not seem like such a fantastic idea. The first film didn't really show us much. Orc leader Gul'dan leads his people from a dying world to Azeroth to conquer it and take prisoners for his dark magic. Human leaders band together to fight back, with King Lane and Anduin planning to free their people. Orc chieftain Durotan rebels against Gul'dan's rule and eventually challenges him to a duel, where he loses because the Orc leader uses fell magic. In the final battle, King Lane orders the Orc Garona to kill him, with Anduin barely escaping with his body. The sequel was supposed to, first, show a further confrontation involving other races, second, focus on Garona's place among the Orcs and the threat of Fel, and third, reveal a new role, Khadgar, and introduce Gale, better known as Thrall. We also got to see the fall of Stormwind, which is a key event for the formation of the alliance of Lordaeron in response to the Orcish threat. If the series decides to continue the events of the film, it could very well jump ahead and focus on Thrall's coming of age. He is raised as a gladiator and eventually earns his freedom, after which he frees many Orcs who were locked in special camps. He leads his people to start a new civilization, and becomes one of the most legendary characters in the franchise. But with the help of the writers, the series can distance itself from the film altogether. It doesn't have to show the very beginning of the conflict and the Orcs' arrival in Azeroth. Instead, the writers can choose a more understandable story for a wider audience who is not familiar with the lore of Warcraft. Even those who have never raided have heard of such a character as the Lich King. If you look into it, his backstory is perfect for a film adaptation. The human kingdom of Lordaeron is faced with a mysterious disease that turns the dead into undead. Crown Prince Arthas Menethil becomes a member of the Knights of the Silver Hand and knows that he must protect his people. In the process of searching for the origin of this infection and a cure for it, he succumbs to the temptation of Nerzhul, who is the Lich King and takes the cursed sword Frostmourne. As a result, Arthas leads those he fought against and goes against his own people. He kills his father, destroys the kingdom, and then merges with Nerzhul. And he himself becomes the new Lich King. The tragic story of Arthas' transformation from a hero to a villain will not only please fans of the game, but also show new viewers how multifaceted Warcraft is. Perhaps the authors will even be able to compete with the story of the fall of Anakin Skywalker and the rise of Darth Vader. At least good intentions led both heroes to the darkest side. In addition, everyone remembers who would be perfect for the role of Arthas. The fan community has long decided that Hollywood's leading geek Henry Cavill is simply his living embodiment. And besides everything else, he is a fan of the game and is well versed in the lore. The actor still can't find a home for himself after leaving the role of Superman and Geralt. Warhammer from Amazon is experiencing serious problems, and its adaptation may fail altogether. If they fail to show one cult universe, then Henry is quite capable of giving a second wind to another. The main thing is that Netflix does not stand their ground and spoil everything with a ubiquitous agenda. We know very well how skillfully they do it, but the question with the director remains open. Duncan Jones noted that he would be happy to return to work on the sequel. In addition, his filmography is currently in no hurry to replenish with new projects. Working on Warcraft will allow him to be heard again, which is why he is trying to promote the idea of a sequel. But even if he does not take the director's chair, there are more than enough candidates. A series generally needs several, so that the episodes balance with different approaches. And Jones can easily become a producer to coordinate the general direction. Or Netflix can simply drag Cavill to themselves and give him what Amazon promised. In any case, the Warcraft film adaptation is not dead and is looking for a new incarnation. We find it hard to believe that Blizzard will decide to greenlight a sequel, because by the time it comes out, the gap with the first part will be more than 10 years. But we readily believe that we will see a series. It is not for nothing that Netflix bought the rights to show the first film. In the meantime, we are waiting for an update on the news. Write in the comments what other stories from the world of Warcraft can be successfully adapted for the screen, because in addition to computer games, there are comics, books, board games. And how many fan videos on YouTube are so countless? There are more than enough worthy options. Well, that's all for today, friends. Happy anniversary to all fans of the games, and see you in new videos very soon.